Hi, my name is Emily Rolls, and I am here with...
Gage Hogston.
So you run Video Ghost Jacks, and that's like a community pop-up event, right?
Yeah.
So can you like share how you started this and like your whole backstory for creating it, really?
So with me, I've been collecting since I've been a child. I started with collecting wrestling tapes when I was younger, and that was really all the physical media I had. And then once I got older, my grandpa and my dad got me into cinema, and that's when I started collecting movies. And around that time is when like the Blu-ray format came into play. And I've had to repurchase VHS tapes, DVDs, Blu-rays, and now 4K discs, over the past 20 years. And I've got really big into the community of Blu-rays and the boutique labels that surround them that put out these genre films. And there's a community that's risen from them to basically, I guess, champion discovery of new things. And I wanted to bring that to the city of Jacksonville because we're kind of starving for any kind of independent cinema, any kind of genre cinema, because really all we have is big chain theaters here. And so these discs that come out, they champion discovery, and people can find out, new movies that they may have never even heard of before. And I wanted a place that collectors could come and hang out and talk movies and look through things that they may have never seen before.
So do you remember the first tape you ever bought? And I know you said and how did it spark your obsession with collecting physical media? Like how did your father and your grandfather, I know you mentioned them really getting you into cinema.
Yeah.
How did that spark for you, like making you be like, okay, wow, they've like passed this on to me.
Yeah.
How did that make you really be like, I want to collect this?
The first tape I ever got was WWF Royal Rumble 2001. So that would have been the January pay-per-view event. And I got that from a neighbor, purchased it for me, so I would have been 6 years old. And even, it's funny because people that collect Blu-rays and stuff now, almost every label that releases stuff, they put spine numbers on things to kind of get into that collector mentality. And those had spine numbers on them growing up. And I remember growing up wanting to have all of those spine numbers and collect every pay-per-view. And I think that kind of started the like obsessive collecting aspect of it. But then once I got into movies, it was a completely different kind of sphere. Then it became into like, how are these older movies being able to be put on these higher definition formats?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, how does that actually work? Like, because it didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to a lot of people, So
Yeah, I remember growing up seeing the Shirley Temple movies being put on DVDs, like always being advertised on Cartoon Network, and I was like, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it.
Yeah, that always interested me. And so once I got old enough and these companies started doing this, I started collecting those as well. So yeah, I've always been into older movies because of my family. Like to me, like just because a movie was older or black and white, or if a movie's foreign or something, like that's never been a factor of me wanting to watch it or not. Like to me, cinema as a whole is all just one giant thing that you have to accept all of it or none of it, in my opinion.
So physical media is obviously making a big comeback, like with everybody collecting vinyls nowadays and CDs and movies and DVDs, and everyone's trying to go back to the golden days. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think people are bringing back like VHSs and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost become cliche at this point because of how popular it is. Like, the vinyl resurgence of the past, like, decade is definitely probably, like, the biggest thing that people are aware of, that vinyl records. Like, you could buy a vinyl record at Target right now, but you can't buy a Blu-ray or a DVD, which is so bizarre. Books are another thing. We're here at the Literary Lounge today. It's a bookstore in Murray Hill here in Jacksonville, Florida. And they are a perfect example of this. There's bookstores thriving all over the United States right now. New bookstores are constantly opening. New record stores are constantly opening. And we're finally kind of starting to see the same thing happen in the movie sphere. So like you'll see there's VHS specific stores, and then there's actually stores that are selling the Blu-rays and 4Ks that I mainly focus in. But I kind of want to have all of those things because they're almost like two different markets, where the VHS market is kind of nostalgia based, and there's a lot of people that want to kind of go out and it's like the thrill of the hunt of finding something that they're nostalgic about, where the Blu-ray and 4K space is more about preserving and bringing these new restorations to the masses, and allowing people to see movies in a different light, or allowing people to see something they once thought they would never be able to see. And I think that both of those, the nostalgia market and this disc market, are both feeding into the discovery aspect of it. And to me, that's the most important thing, is people being able to go and discover things they've never seen before.
So obviously your focus is mainly VHSs. So what do you think that VHS specifically offers that other formats might not offer, other than nostalgia? What do you think VHS offers compared to other?
Well, I would argue that actually my main focus is not the VHS tapes.
Oh, okay.
The Jacksonville has a great VHS community. There's a whole bunch of different people that are selling things here in town. We just did a VHS market at Keg and Coin a few weeks ago, and we got another one coming up soon, and we'll probably have more of those all throughout 2026. But I actually specifically focus more on the 4K and Blu-ray side of things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to me, I think that it interests me more because VHS tapes are really cool. To me, they are more nostalgia based, and they offer a different way of watching the film.
Yeah.
They're often bastardized versions of the film. They're cropped. They generally have different contrast in them, different color timing in them that is not necessarily accurate to what the film is actually supposed to look like.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's why these Blu-rays and 4Ks are kind of so special, is often they're presented in a way that allows you to view the film the way it was supposed to be seen. So I always kind of compare it to going to a museum, right? When you go to a museum and you see a painting, and hanging up on the wall, and you can see the brush strokes, or you could see the oil cracking. The 4K and Blu-ray discs kind of allow you to see it in that way, where VHS doesn't necessarily allow that. The Blu-rays and 4Ks kind of make the limitations of what you're seeing the actual piece of art rather than the medium you're watching it on.
Yeah, that's...
So, but with that being said, I still collect VHS tapes too. I have all my wrestling tapes still from when I was younger, and I still have other things like sports tapes and stuff that never made the jump to other formats. Yeah. So it's still a valuable format, and I'll still carry the VHS tapes as well. But yeah, there's a lot of people in Jacksonville, and the scene is thriving with it.
Do you think the return of physical media is more nostalgia bait and nostalgia driven, or do you think it's a reaction to our current digital world with everything being on streaming? I know, for instance, Netflix and Hulu, and I think HBO Max recently started doing the thing where it's oh, you live outside of the household, can't share streaming services now. Do you think it's a reaction to that, or do you think it's more just people want to collect things that remind them of a simpler time in their lives?
Yeah, I definitely think it's all of those things. All of those things feed into it, and it's a good thing that all of those things feed into it, and it's not just one thing, because I think that makes it a healthier, market. Yeah. I think with the VHS tapes, it's probably more nostalgic base, where I think that the people that collect Blu-rays and 4Ks is not only nostalgia base, but also kind of the high fidelity, snobby kind of audience, But all of it, I think, follows under the umbrella of people that want to have the experience of making watching a movie feel special.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, cliche at this point to say it, but you always hear the ritualistic nature of putting a vinyl record on a table, and it causes you to actively listen to it versus passively
Yeah,
listening
because you're
to
actually like doing the action of putting it on and not just like clicking a button.
Exactly. And that same thing happens with the VHS tapes or the DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah, especially
And
because sometimes VHSs you have to rewind.
yeah, exactly. So it kind of requires and rewards you in ways that, streaming something doesn't necessarily do. And then with streaming content, people are also not just worried about hard to share it with other family members or other households, but also, and I think that may be one of the reasons that people enjoy collecting physical media the most. But then on top of that, the same thing you're saying about streaming platforms maybe betraying people, right?
Yeah.
Not only making it difficult for multiple users to use one account, but also we see where all of a sudden people's favorite TV shows for licensing reasons get removed from streaming apps that have been there for, years.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a decade.
Sometimes they're wiped off of like all streaming
some-
platforms and you can't find them anymore.
Exactly, and you can't find them anywhere. Or probably the most nefarious is where things get edited out or censored, often without notice, right? It'll just happen all of a sudden, and unless like we, the educated viewer of a specific thing, notice it, it kind of goes without being, and that's kind of evil, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and so like I think people see that kind of stuff and they feel betrayed by streaming services.
Yeah.
And it might be one of the reasons that causes people to want to kind of collect things. But again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, like for me, I think the biggest thing is discovery. A lot of these companies that I sell from are things that have like never been on streaming before, or are not on streaming at all. Lost films or films from other countries. Definitely stuff that you would never see like on Netflix or anything like that. Like most of the things up here, Mexican horror movies from the 80s that Netflix would never take the risk of putting on their channel, So like being able to go and browse, unfortunately just web pages because we don't have, that's what I'm trying to bring that web store feel to, real life and have people be able to browse these things that they, instead of just being Netflix tiles, they're actually things they could take home with them and keep.
Yeah, and they can see on a shelf and like put it in and start the movie. So do you think that movies available only digitally are creating a new urgency for preservation when it comes to physical media?
100%. And I think it's probably worse now than ever. You often hear the terms thrown around that like somewhat between 90 to 95% of all silent films are lost.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Another thing I do here in Jacksonville is I'm on the board of directors of Norman Studios Silent Film Museum. And before the film industry largely moved out to LA, it was mostly here in Jacksonville. There's about 30 film studios here. And unfortunately, almost none of the films exist.
Yeah, because I read it online that Jacksonville was the original film capital for California was.
Exactly that. And unfortunately, like none of those things exist anymore. And it's just because the proper preservation, steps weren't taken until really about the 60s was the time that started happening. Unfortunately, we're seeing it in a new form where, with at least with those films from that time period, they were actually reels of film. They were recording. All right. So yeah, I think that we're now entering in another era now of a lot of films that are going to be lost to time. There's lots of film festivals all over the world currently that films get distributed to and never make them outside of that festival. Or there's even films that get put on streaming services that are only up for maybe a year or maybe, less, whatever the license allows, and then gets taken down. And they never had physical copies made of them. And so those become like probably the trickiest to find, especially if anything was held up, through a streaming website that had like strict rules of digital rights management, and they were hard to steal. So like it's hard to even find pirated copies of. And there's lots of these films all over the world, and there's now these boutique Blu-ray companies that are going around and finding these movies, the good ones, and putting out discs of them, So, whatever good means. So good and bad.
Yeah. So how large, like this on your collection and preservation work, so how large is your collection, and Do you like to focus on specific genres or titles, or is it more just like whatever you can get your hands on?
That's funny. And I get asked all the time how big my personal collection is, and I truly don't know the number. I don't even want to give you a number because I'm unsure, but it's not as large as like a lot of people's. I would probably have the largest out of like my friend group, but out of like other people you see online and stuff, I'm like nowhere near, their levels. But I have like a few Billy bookcases from IKEA's worth of movies. So if you could imagine that. So definitely in the hundreds, maybe be getting close to 1,000, somewhere around that. And I collect literally from every decade, every genre. My favorite era is 1930s Hollywood. That's kind of my favorite area to collect from, and luckily a lot of that stuff is being put out currently. I do like a lot of the horror stuff. I like a lot of the weird, the outsider art. I like that kind of stuff. So that's tend to be where I lean.
So what's the rarest or most like meaningful tape you own, or like not even tape, but like meaningful piece of physical media you own? Like what's the rarest item you have?
Oh man, well those are all different questions, or different answers for different questions, because like my rarest thing I probably own, it's probably this box set of French cereals. Yeah, so they're all from the early teens. That's probably like value-wise, like monetarily, the rarest, like most expensive thing that I have. However, like scarce rare.
Yeah, like hard to find.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's probably up there too with that, but that's even hard for me to answer. What means the most to me though is probably my like wrestling tapes that like my mother purchased for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Those probably hold the most sentimental value to me from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Do you have like a holy grail type of like piece of media that you're still searching for out there?
Just a couple weeks ago, Criterion released what I considered to be my holy grail. They released 1930s Hell's Angels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a movie that I've wanted to see for a very long time, and they just put out a 4K disc of it. It skipped DVD and Blu-ray. Or no, it didn't skip DVD. It did have a DVD, but it skipped Blu-ray. So it went straight from DVD to 4K UHD.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so it was really cool to finally watch that. I've been kind of waiting for an upgrade of that to come out so I could watch it. But now I think that my holy grail is something that just hasn't came out yet. Because I love Discovery so much. So I'm going to say like the grail, I don't even know what it is yet.
So how much like work goes into like maintaining, you do like a little bit of archival work, right?
I do with Norman Studios Silent Film Museum. With them, I definitely work to preserve mostly like paper materials and stuff like that.
Yeah, like how much work goes into like archiving like your film stuff? Like how like much like work goes into like collecting that and being able to like hold on to all that and like find stuff and source and all that?
I mean, definitely part of collecting of it is like maintaining, what you got and like taking care of everything. It's not a lot of work because like I keep my stuff pretty organized with everything personally with like my tapes and stuff like that. But I necessarily wouldn't say anything like I have as preservation or anything personally.
So in your view, what is like at risk culturally if physical formats disappear, or if even like, if they just like disappear, if like it stops being like it's already slightly disappearing, but you can still walk in any Goodwill and find like DVDs or CDs. So what do you think's at risk culturally if all that were to just disappear?
Well, it's even getting harder to walk into thrift stores and find things. That's even becoming more difficult. And I think the thing that we should fear the most is actually losing original versions of films. And luckily right now, most of these companies that are doing these restorations are doing it the right way and preserving the films as they were initially shot and how they're intended to look. And I think with future generations, we may get removed from that where it may become more standard to digitally alter things, edit things, censor things, or even change the way they look because of, future sensibilities that we may not even be aware. Like AI is always changing things.
It's terrifying.
And 20 years from now, it may be hard to find what we watch now because everything's been touched by AI in some way.
It's terrifying. It's so scary.
Yeah.
So what is the mission of Video Ghost Jax, and like how do you like what is your like main like your future goals and all that for it?
Yeah, the end goal would definitely to, eventually open up a brick and mortar store here in Jacksonville and create a community hub for film lovers to come hang out, discover new cinema, watch cinema even potentially, and just be a place for creatives to get together.
How do you want your work to contribute to Jacksonville's creative film community?
I would also like for us to be a place that showcases Jacksonville filmmaking.
Yeah.
I would like for us to be a place that Jacksonville filmmakers feel they can come and collaborate with people, talk with people, and can all get together at a actual space, And I'm doing that slightly here with these pop-ups, but I think eventually once I get my own space, that will be something to look forward to.
Do you have any plans to collaborate with any like local creatives on like VHS swaps or like physical media swaps, more screenings or like any similar events?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more of that throughout 2026.
Nice.
Here at the Literary Lounge where we're recording today, I'll be here monthly, first Friday nights of every month. I'll be here selling some movies, and I think eventually you'll start seeing me do screenings of movies throughout town.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. And we'll have more VHS marts and stuff with other companies like Dirtbag Tapes and VHS's Life here in Jacksonville. And we'll probably do stuff at, Keg and Coin and all other different locations around town.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So.